A pleasant greetings, everyone, and have a blessed day ahead. So, our topic today is about the theory of Stephen Krashen, which is second language acquisition. We have two words that are particularly connected to his theory: the learning and acquisition. Learning is about gaining knowledge and skills by studying, practicing, being taught, or experiencing something from the activity. Say, for example, we experiences heartbreaks, and you who experiences this will soon realize things on why your relation did not work. And this realization will now serve as your lesson. Always remember that in every action we take, we also learn. So, are you familiar with the quote saying that experience is the best teacher? Yes, I agree with that because when when we experiencing things, we learn because these things will make us realize the things that we must do. Okay? How about acquisition? If learning is gaining, acquiring now is the movement or action performing what we have learned. Say, for example, you realize things from your past relationship, and part of your moving on is to make a big step and accept things in your own in order for you to be ready on entertaining a new relationship. Let's proceed to the hypothesis of Krashen's theory. Actually, we have five hypotheses: the acquisition learning, the monitor, the input, the affective filter, and the natural order hypothesis. Sadly, we are only focusing and discussing two of his theory, uh, the acquisition learning and the natural order. So let's start with acquisition learning and let's find out more about this hypothesis of Krashen's theory.
So, for today, I will going to report the learning acquisition hypothesis. Learning acquisition hypothesis is the most fundamental of the five hypotheses in Stephen Krashen's theory. It is widely known among linguistics and language teachers. Language learning and its acquisition plays a pivotal role in our society. Language teaching in a classroom involves interaction among the learners and the teachers. The aim is to bring about a change in the learners. Language teaching does not operate in isolation from other aspects of life. If we view the second language teaching in its totality, we find that it is a very complex task indeed. In order to understand the nature of this complex task, it is necessary to approach in it a systematic manner. It is imperative to organize the various components in the relationship and analyze the way in which they operate. A language teacher has to keep inside the ultimate outcome and at the same time to be alert to what is taking place in the classroom. According to Chomsky, an American linguist and a philosopher, the linguistic competence of the human being is due to the existence of innate knowledge. The innate knowledge is an essential element in the acquisition of language.
Natural order hypothesis is one of the hypotheses of Krashen theory, which stated that all learners acquire the grammatical structure of language and applies both first and second language acquisition. This hypothesis was based on morpheme study by Heidi Dulay and Marina Burt, which found that certain morphemes were predictably learned before others during the course of second language acquisition. Natural order hypothesis is the idea that children learning their first language acquire grammatical structure in a predetermined natural order and that some are required earlier than others. For example, according to natural order hypothesis, learners acquire the grammatical morphemes ing before the morphemes third person s. In the classroom, one possible implication of this hypothesis is that teaching language through a traditional structural syllabus may not necessarily help them to acquire the language they need. Attempts to get the learners to produce structure before they are ready to do so. Finally, according to this hypothesis, the order of acquisition remains the same regardless of the teacher explicit instruction, or to make it simpler, explicit teaching and learning cannot change the natural order of acquisition. In natural order acquisition, we acquire the rules of language in a predictably order, some rules tending to come early and others are late. Supporters of this hypothesis argue that grammar is not simply teachable since teacher cannot control what a student will naturally acquire. But the proponents also argue that learners will pick up grammar only through meaningful exposure to second language, not by explicit end practice. The assumption of this hypothesis is that all learning a second language is seen as very similar to learning the mother tongue. For me, it is certainly true that being able to go from instruction and practice to spontaneous use only work with minority of students. But as far as I can tell, teaching grammar in a sequence did allow some students to apply their knowledge in that same sequence. In short, based on my experience, teacher can teach grammar and some student apply order you taught it. For me, grammar is unteachable. Language learning is hard and takes time. Natural order hypothesis clearly exists when acquiring a first language. They are more problematic in second language learning. The acquisition or learning hypothesis highlights two very different ideas about language teaching and learning that can be summarized as follows. Input leads to output. Acquisition-based teaching with meaningful, comprehensive input. Output leads to output. Traditional learning-based teaching with grammar, rules, and output-based practice. One of the problems of the natural order hypothesis fails to take into account the influence of the first language on the acquisition of a second language. In fact, second language learning acquire a second language in different order depending on their native language. Therefore, second language learners do not necessarily acquire grammatical structure in a predictably sequence. For example, the order of an English native speaker would naturally acquire French grammar without instruction. This means that you cannot organize a grammatical syllabus based on natural order.
So we hope that you understand clearly our topic, and thank you for watching. Till next time again.